All right, buckle up, boys and girls. This video is going to be a little bit longer than normal because we are going to do a deep dive into this dispute between Thunderfoot and Trevor Mahlmann over the use of some video. Thunderfoot inserted a clip from Trevor Mahlmann's video into a bigger video that he was doing on SpaceX, and Trevor Mahlmann has decided to go after Thunderfoot, suggesting that he was engaged in some sort of copyright infringement. So the question we're going to answer is, did Thunderfoot engage in copyright infringement? Does he owe Trevor Mahlmann some money? What is the analysis? All of that stuff. Why am I talking about this? If you don't know who I am, I'm Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. I'm a lawyer, but I'm also a legal and political commentator on YouTube. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the notification bell if you like that stuff and this stuff and don't want to miss any videos. Okay, that being said, let me clarify. I am not an expert on copyright. However, I do have a little bit of experience analyzing things from a fair use perspective because I am a content creator here on YouTube and I understand the legal standards that are involved. But that being said, if you ever have any copyright questions, you should contact a copyright attorney in your jurisdiction. I am not giving any of these people or you legal advice at all. All of those stupid lawyer disclaimers out of the way, let's proceed to talk about some very, very specific legal topics. Okay, so on the front of all this, we have to say this about fair use. Fair use is not a bright line rule. There isn't a square sort of hole to put a round peg into or anything like that. You have to take it on a case-by-case basis, and it is fact-intensive for each use. There are no two analogous uses of fair use that we can look to. We can't go, did someone use 15 seconds of some photographer's video in a video about SpaceX that has all of these other elements? It doesn't work that way. There are too many factors into it. So mine is going to be a read-through of fair use with some explanations, analysis of the facts, and my determination on what I think. Spoiler alert, I am going to fall in favor of Thunderfoot on this one. So if you are pre-biased against that conclusion, watch anyway and challenge your own thinking. If you're pre-biased for that conclusion, also watch anyway and see if you came to the same conclusions for the same reasons. That said, let's get started. So we've got Trevor Mahlmann here, and this is a photographer of some sort. He's a commercial photographer. He takes photographs and videos for Ars Technica, and he has lots of photos and videos about rockets, rocket launches, and all that stuff because rockets are cool, I guess, and so he likes to cover them. That being said, let's look at this Twitter thread that he started. Now, I'm going to skip some of it because it's irrelevant drama. We're going to go to his legal opinions. If you want, I will include the link to all of this in the description below, and you can go check it all out for yourself. But we're going to skip to the relevant parts for this video. Otherwise, we'll be here till tomorrow. Okay, so Trevor says, to Thunderfoot, I believe you should be removed from YouTube for using your platform to belittle smaller creators in this way. Thread. Thunderfoot, recently used my Starship SN9 footage commercially and without permission/credit. For many reasons, this use is not fair use, as I will describe. So, as a brief background, this guy asked Thunderfoot in an email for $750 for use of this clip, saying that that was the going rate for this 15-second clip that he would charge to anybody. On the surface, that email actually looks a little bit shady. And anytime you get an email, and we're gonna look at some Thunderfoot videos and stuff, and all the links to all this stuff will be in the description, so you can check it all out for yourself, because we can't watch all of it. It's too much. But Thunderfoot goes through the email that this guy sent, and that email looks to be, how do I say this politely, a little bit copyright extortionist. And that is the idea that someone has already allegedly infringed on your work. So what you do is you send them a bill and you're like, well, this is just what I would charge. No negotiation or anything like that takes place. This is not how a license to use something would be negotiated. Generally speaking, this is how you do it in retrospect. And if you remember, this kind of happened to MXR Plays a while back. Those people who review Skyrim mods and stuff like that. It happened to them, and they got the extortionate sort of notice. Oh, by the way, we noticed you infringed, and for the small fee of way too much money, we'll go ahead and determine that this was fine in retrospect. I'm not a big fan of that sort of style. I understand the point, but the way it's framed is, I don't know how else to say it. It's extortionate. It's extortionate. You already did this. Here's my price to keep me from bringing you to court, is how it reads. And he doesn't say he's bringing anyone to court, but he does say that he'll go to his lawyers and pursue further action. So that kind of comes into bringing you into court. Anyway, that is the basis of what is coming out of all this. And that is in Thunderfoot's video. He goes through the whole video, the whole email, and I suggest you take a look at it. Okay. So, here is his legal analysis of fair use. All right? Let's go up one here. Fair use broadly is a way to use copyrighted material without having to first acquire permission from the copyright holder and creator, me, my video in this instance. It has 4 parts and columns that each need to be considered. This is almost correct. I mean, in a way, it's right, but it's important to remember that fair use isn't like a defense. It's not a defense to copyright because it's not like an exception to the copyright rule. It's like, well, this is otherwise copyright infringement, but for fair use. No, fair use is a recognized aspect of copyright in which a new work is created, something that is separate from the original. And these 4 factors of fair use are there to determine whether or not you are taking something or making something. And that's an important frame of mind to be in when you're looking at fair use. Is this the original work, or is this something very different? And Thunderfoot's video, at the end of the day, to summarize all this, is very, very different than Trevor's video. And now we're going to look at the 4 factors as Trevor analyzes them, and as we go through, we're going to talk about each one. And then we're going to look at the video itself and show you why I think the way I think, okay? So Trevor's 4 points of fair use: purpose and character of the use, the nature of the copyrighted work, the amount or substantiality of the portion used, and the effect of the use on the potential market for the value of the work. Okay. Market for or value of the work. All right. So he's got the 4 factors down. That's fine. You can find these on a Wikipedia entry. They're all over the place. You can find fair use discussions everywhere. The trick is not in knowing what the 4 things are. It's in realizing how they actually work and how to apply them. So first, the purpose of the use. This is whether or not the use is commercial. And he says Thunderfoot asks for directly and takes donations via links in the description to support his work on YouTube. The purpose is clearly commercial. Now, again, that's not a fully flushed out sort of way of looking at it, but he is right. I mean, Thunderfoot is monetizing these videos. They are commercial. Just having donation links in a description doesn't necessarily mean you're monetizing or using the work, that particular work, for a commercial purpose. But in this case, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that Thunderfoot is doing this commercially. He has a very large YouTube channel, and he publishes videos regularly, and those videos presumably make him money. I don't think anybody's hiding that. 1, the character of the use continued. The end fair user must, quote, add something new with a different character, altering the first with new expression, meaning, or message. He says the video is just shown bluntly, not given new expression, meaning, or message. This weighs against fair use. And let me stop him right here. This is his first error. And this is one of the critical aspects of fair use. This first prong can actually, in many ways, overrule the other 3. It is the most important aspect of fair use, is whether or not this thing is transformative. Now, there are there are superseding factors and all that stuff. This is not a be-all, end-all thing, but it's massively important. It's more important than the next prong and probably the next two prongs as well individually, and maybe more important than all of the other prongs combined in many circumstances. Is this a transformative use? Does it do something different? Now, he says the video is just shown bluntly, not given new expression, meaning, or message, and that this weighs against fair use. That's not accurate. That's not accurate. His video, as I'll show you here, his video is 7 minutes long. Thunderfoot used a 15-second clip, and we're going to look at all these in a little bit. But he used a 15-second clip of this 7-minute video. So already the video has been changed dramatically because we've gone from 7 minutes to 15 seconds. You're cutting out 98% of the video. Next, and that's not it. Next, Thunderfoot's video is almost 24 minutes long. So you've got a tiny portion of one video inserted into a small portion of another video. Now, had Thunderfoot just grabbed that 15 seconds of footage and put it up, he might be actually engaged in copyright infringement. However, his video is used in the context of the other things, and he's using it to make a different point than the other guy was making. The other guy is showing a SpaceX launch all the way up through an attempted landing and an explosion. Thunderfoot just grabs the explosion, but right here, and again, we're going to watch this in a second, but Thunderfoot has this juxtaposed against a successful rocket launch and landing from 25 years prior. He's using the two different footages and the two different images, one of a successful landing and one of a failed landing, to talk about how this is not revolutionary, to make commentary about the SpaceX program. Thunderfoot is not a big fan of Elon Musk, from what I gather, and that's fine. He's not using the work to show a SpaceX launch, roll, descent, and crash. He's using just the crash to make a specific point in his greater video. This is not the same thing. This is not the same thing that Trevor Mahlmann was showing. And for him to say it's just blunt, not given new expression, meaning, or message is absolutely incorrect. Now, the question for the court, and this would be for a court, is it given enough new expression, meaning, or message to weigh in favor of fair use and specifically transformative? I think so, but I'm not the court. So, but I do want to point out, though, his saying that this weighs against fair use is not a complete or even honest in any way look at the fair use factor. There is different stuff going on, and this is where I think he makes a very big mistake. Number 2, the nature of the copyrighted work. As the footage was largely factual, it shows an event that has occurred. This factor likely weighs towards finding of fair use. Right. Works of fact versus works of fiction. Works of fact are often less creative, and therefore those creative works or non-creative works are less protected. Again, Trevor, and this is interesting because this kind of goes more in his favor, is there's actually something to the framing and photographing, and like photographs tend to be factual works and they all the time have copyright protection. And it's not like that factual use always goes against them. They're factual, yes, but also the framing and the craftsmanship of the actual photography that's taking place, that's part of the creative aspect of the work. So he's selling himself short here, although I do think that this would come out to a wash between the two. It is factual, but it's a mix of factual and creative properties. So I think that I don't think this actually weighs in favor of fair use or against it. I think this is actually a neutral element. And I think his analysis in this is a little bit flawed because of that. He says, number 2 is usually not significant in the overall fair use balancing, and so is certainly not dispositive. He's right there. But again, I think this is a neutral use. I think his analysis is incomplete. I think what he was trying to do was to throw a pity toss towards Thunderfoot while he finds for himself on the other three factors. I think that's maybe what was motivating that, or he's just not very good at analyzing fair use in general. Number 3, the amount or substantiality of the portion used. He says, here, even though only a small portion of my video was used, that portion is the heart of my work, which is the most valuable and pertinent portion of Thunderfoot's video. Without the crash, it would not bring Thunderfoot's video home. He's got an analysis problem right in the words of his statement here. It's not about the heart of the use for Thunderfoot. It's the heart of the use for his video. And his video is not about the crash. Look at it. 4K SpaceX Starship SN9. Is that about the crash? When Hop SN9 answered the call, I was on hand for Ars Technica covering the next flight of SpaceX's Starship program, enjoy my work, and want to help keep the rad footage coming, get multiple full-resolution photo downloads, uncover the camera settings, blah, blah, blah. Here's his Patreon. What is that talking about? That's the SN9 flight, all of it, all 7 minutes. That's not about the crash. Now, he is arguing that the crash is the heart of the work, but the way he phrases it here is that it's the heart of Thunderfoot's work. That's not how this goes. I would also contend that he's wrong about the crash being the heart of the work. And I'm going to show you 2 moments in his video. We will watch the crash on Thunderfoot's video because I'm going to show you Thunderfoot's thing, but I want to show you these other moments. And you can tell me if you think that I'm right or wrong about this, but we're going to watch the liftoff and we're going to watch a roll, and we're going to watch it with full audio from his video, which has the audio of the SpaceX people involved. And we're going to see if the crash is the heart of the work or not. I contend it's not, but that's me. Here we go.
There's the jet. Ignition.
Ignition.
It's moving.
Yes, it's moving.
Oh boy, it's moving.
It's moving.
There it
Yes.
goes. Lift
Yeah.
off, baby. SN9.
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah.
Woo!
She's turning. It's round 2. Turning.
Okay, I'm using 25 seconds of the work because I want to outdo Thunderfoot here. This is the next part we're going to look at. This is where the right at the peak of where the rocket is flying to, it executes a roll. And so this is the same video. This is just a little bit farther in. Here we go.
All right, there's the kick.
Yep. Okay, here comes the kick. Getting ready for the bigger thing.
Come on, Bessie. Come on back home.
So what it's going to do is use the same. Oh, look at the RCS. I hope. Okay, here we go.
Here's the flip.
There it is. There it is. There it is.
Whoa.
Oh, that is awesome.
There it is. She's falling.
All right, now it comes free fall, my friends. This is the belly flop. Oh, that is cool. Uh-oh, that looks like it's really nose down this time.
Uh-oh.
That is really nose down.
Uh-oh.
Oh, it's fixing itself.
It fixed it.
It's fixing. It's fixing though. So it's like you have to translate forward a little bit.
Okay, again, I'm not going to use any more than is necessary to make my point. But there we have 2 very dramatic moments in the film. We have the liftoff happening, which is, preceded by or accompanied by cheers, and you can hear lots of shutters going from the cameras. This is a momentous thing. It lifts off. If you don't know anything about recent launches from companies like SpaceX, and I think even a recent SpaceX launch, they've actually had some explosions on the launch pad. So having it lift off was an important sort of point there. And then executing that flip or that roll up at the peak of its flight path, and then entering into a dramatic dive and correcting itself. These are dramatic moments, and they're very specifically interesting to the audience that you can hear in the video. To suggest that the heart of the video is only at the end, I think is very dishonest and disingenuous to what's going on in the overall video. And I will again point to his title and description, which do not say SpaceX rocket crash. If it were the SpaceX rocket crash, if it were only that 15-second clip of the rocket crashing, he would have a better argument here. but he doesn't, because that's not what it is. And then finally, he has continuing, the amount or substantiality of the portion used. With this, number 3 weighs against fair use. I disagree. Again, Thunderfoot took 15 seconds out of a 7-minute video with at least 3 distinct dramatic parts happening in the video. And there's actually a little bit more, but I wanted to pick those 3 elements specifically because they're all momentous in the thing. And nothing in his description or use of the video, Trevor's use of the video, highlights or emphasizes the crash. That just happens to be at the end. That just also happens to be the only part that Thunderfoot needed to make his point. That doesn't mean it's the only part of his video that's relevant. So he says, notably, cases which take the heart of the work, the explosion, have been judged not fair use in the past. That is partially correct. Those cases have been judged that way in the past. Notably, there have been lots of other cases where the heart of the work has been judged fair use in the past. So that's not really saying anything at all. The cases have gone both ways. And like I said at the beginning of this video, fair use is fact-intensive and fact-specific. There isn't a bright line rule that a court or a person can follow. You have to look into it. And just so we know, I do have some criticisms of Thunderfoot coming up as well. So I'm not just going to be bashing on Trevor. I don't really care about either of these people, but I think Thunderfoot has the better end of the argument here, even though I think he gets some things wrong. And we're going to talk about those too. Number 4, the effect of the use on the potential market for or the value of the work. Put simply, I license for use of footage/photography for a fee. If YouTubers were able to fairly use anything I made out anywhere without a fee, my market would be impacted severely/not exist. Let me break this down for you, Trevor. YouTubers are able to fairly use anything you make without a fee. That's the nature of fair use. Whether you license it or not is irrelevant to whether or not their use is fair. So inherently, and I don't think he meant to do this, he's got a big error here. Of course, YouTubers can fairly use your product for free. Again, that's the entire point of fair use. They just have to fall into a good fair use analysis. And again, I think Thunderfoot does. He says, the effect of the use on the potential market for or value of the work continued. Unfortunately, this brings number 4 also weighing against fair use. This is not the analysis at all. This has no analysis built into it. What you have to do is look at the market for that work and determine if the infringing use diminishes or impacts the market for that work. In this case, does someone watching Thunderfoot's 23-minute video with 15 seconds of video from Trevor Mahlmann impact Trevor Mahlmann's 7-minute video? Will he get less use out of that video, less commercial use out of that video because someone watched Thunderfoot's video? The answer to this is almost guaranteed to be no. It will have no impact. In fact, it likely has a positive impact based on what's going on here, because now anyone who catches on to this drama is going to watch that, or likely go look at this guy's works and video. But that being said, that is kind of separate. The use case of each one. Thunderfoot's video doesn't stop someone from looking at Trevor's video. In fact, he points to Thunderfoot not crediting him as some sort of gotcha, but by not crediting him, no one is going to go, I've already seen this. Plus, Thunderfoot took the last, or not the last, but some of the last 15 seconds. He didn't take the beginning. The footage isn't necessarily identifiable or replicable. No one looking at Thunderfoot's video is going to know at the beginning of Trevor's video that that's where it's from. They may see it at the end and go, oh, neat. That is not weighing in Trevor's favor at all. This is a terrible, terrible analysis of this prong. Probably the worst one. I would say his analysis of all 4 is actually wrong. This one is the worst. So he says, in total, that is 3 of 4 weighing heavily against fair use. No, not heavily. And I don't even think against. But even if any of them are weighing against fair use, it's not heavily at all. and one weighing in its favor, and the one that is frequently not significant. And so then he finishes up with a rant about Thunderfoot. Now, let's look at Thunderfoot's video in context. So here is his explanation video. He's getting sued for 15 seconds of video. I just wanted to point out that Trevor has asked for $750 for the 15-second clip in the email that I was talking about earlier. Again, all of these links are going to be in the description, so you can check all of them out for yourself, but you can probably find them on Thunderfoot's channel really easily as well. Let's go look at the use. Now, I've brought this to a little bit earlier than the 15 seconds that Thunderfoot uses because it's important to see the juxtaposition, and we'll watch straight through and we'll watch a little bit into Thunderfoot's commentary because Trevor suggested that Thunderfoot didn't change or add anything to the footage, and I disagree. Here we go.
Meanwhile, some 20 years later in Texas.
Right on target. It's looking fantastic.
Ignition number 1. Ignition number 2. There's the flip.
There's the flip. Yes! Oh,
Uh-oh.
God. Oh, God. No, no.
Oh, that was...
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's interesting to have people excited about it, I guess, but honestly, I find the rockets that successfully land more impressive. And maybe the ones that actually do something, like maybe, for instance, land a state-of-the-art.
Okay, you get the idea. Thunderfoot is comparing these two different things that happened. One of them is a successful rocket landing 20 years ago versus an unsuccessful rocket landing from SpaceX. And he's actually commenting about the people cheering on the unsuccessful landing, saying he prefers landings that are successful or rockets that are useful rather than ones that go up, come down, and explode. That is very, very different from the nature of Trevor's work. And I want to point out that Trevor is asking for $750 because of that. Now, in Thunderfoot's explanation video here, he goes ahead and addresses this. He addresses this and suggests that the $750 would be way too much. And what he does in this video is he shows what the editing process for one of these videos looks like, all of the clips that are put in, all of the musical interludes, all of that stuff. It says if I had to pay $750 for all of this stuff, it would be impossible. That's true. However, that's not the question. And that's a very important distinction to make here for Thunderfoot. That is not the question about the appropriate question, I should say, on fair use. That actually doesn't have anything to do with whether or not the use is fair. So in this case, Thunderfoot is not entirely accurate on that. And it's important to point out where he's incorrect. If he were to take just a specific work and to use it improperly, no matter how many other works he includes, that would not be fair use. That's not really relevant here. Now, he is right, though, that $750 for 15 seconds of footage is a bit ridiculous. And that is, to me, playing into the extortionate nature of the email. But I wanted to point that out. I think Thunderfoot is on just fine footing here. I also think that Trevor bringing this to court would be a little bit ridiculous. To bring a copyright matter like this through court all the way to fruition, you're talking a minimum of $50,000 to $100,000, and the remedy is $750,000. And that's the leverage he's trying to use. He even says it in the email that he's trying to make it cheaper for Thunderfoot. Well, buddy, it would be a lot cheaper for you as well. And this is just the nature of it. This is why the DMCA system exists. And if Trevor wanted to do this properly, he would submit a DMCA takedown claim on Thunderfoot. It exists to alleviate these problems without the expenditure of going to court on a copyright issue. Now, I'm not saying he should use the DMCA against Thunderfoot. I think it would be incorrect. I think that would be incorrect. However, he could. Now, Thunderfoot comments on this. He comments on this specific thing, and he says, and this is another thing that he gets wrong that I want to point out. He says that, if someone, he gets it right, but he applies it wrong. Let me rephrase that. He says that if someone were to issue a DMCA takedown without a proper fair use analysis, that is unlawful. And that is correct. However, just because someone doesn't do a fair use analysis correctly, or they disagree with the fair use outcome, that doesn't mean they didn't do it in good faith. And he cites Lens versus Universal Media Group, which is a great case to establish this point. But it's important to note that in Lens, the issue was that the company admitted to not doing any fair use analysis at all. They had an algorithmic bot which would automatically DMCA things that contained any of their copyrighted materials, whether or not it was fair use. They didn't even look. They just blip, 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 blip. They auto-flagged it and took it down. That is not doing a good faith fair use analysis. If someone does a good faith fair use analysis as a layperson specifically and does it wrong, they're not necessarily liable. Now, they have to establish that they did it in good faith and that they tried to apply the factors, but that doesn't mean that they're going to get it right or agree. So again, Thunderfoot is right on the issue, but I think he's incorrect in his application here. And Trevor has all of the evidence right now that he's done a fair use analysis. So Thunderfoot would have to attack the good faith nature of it. And I think that would be a really, really difficult road. In short, nobody wants this lawsuit to occur because it would be a giant waste of everyone's money. However, Thunderfoot certainly doesn't owe this guy $750. That's ridiculous, in my opinion, as well. The use looks to be fair. If Trevor disagrees, he can file a DMCA takedown. Thunderfoot would likely file a DMCA counterclaim, and then it would be on Trevor to file suit or not. That's the way the system works. That's the appropriate means to do it, not by fighting over some email and then getting into a whiny fit on Twitter, because some people, when you called out Thunderfoot, some of his fans decided to push back a little bit. But that is where we are. I hope everybody who watches this, and if you're still with me, you poor sap, thank you for watching through all of it. I hope you found this educational, informative, a nice exploration of fair use with real-world examples, maybe from someone you already like. And that is what I like to do here. So drop a comment down below. Tell me what you think about this. And just a reminder, if you're not subscribed, subscribe. You know, we talk about this type of stuff all the time. Thanks a bunch, guys. Until next time, peace. Peace.